Real people, real opinions. Nighttime talk with Niall Boylan.
Ireland's classic hits radio.
It is November already, if you can believe it. We hear a lot about dry January, but some of you also go off the drink for November. Maybe to get ready for the big session at Christmas or the big Christmas season. If you are going off the booze, best of luck to you, by the way, if you're giving it up. Same if you're giving up smoking or whatever it happens to be. It's a tough thing, isn't it, to give up something like that you probably pretend to yourself that you enjoy. And we were chatting in the office about giving up drink. And, of course, addiction came up and the question of when a habit becomes an addiction. And will you all have heard the untimely passing of Matthew Perry, Chandler Bing, of course, from Friends over the weekend. And he was someone who suffered with an addiction for alcohol, and not only alcohol, prescription drugs as well. And he had some interesting things to say about it when chatting with Peter Hitchens on the BBC back in 2013. Give me a quick listen to what he said. I'll give you a quick listen to what he said.
If I have a drink, I can't stop. And so it would be following your ideology that I'm choosing to do that. I'm choosing...
That's exactly not my ideology, it is my belief. Yes, you do choose.
It is, and it's a belief that you wrote in your book, correct?
You have a choice. Over whether you drink or not, you have a choice over...
But your book is the only book in modern times that has this ideology. Yeah. So doesn't that teach you something?
Now, he does go on to talk about a lot of other stuff too. And Peter Hitchens, who's also a very intelligent person, who doesn't obviously agree with him, talks about the fact that there is no observable evidence or medical evidence that somebody is addicted to anything. In other words, the point he was making is it's a choice. Yes, you become mentally addicted to something and you become reliant on something, be it prescription drugs, cigarettes or alcohol. But it is invariably your choice to continue doing that. And some people argue they don't have a choice. And there's also that argument that it's a disease. And we've heard that word before. Alcoholism is a disease. And our doctors have been arguing about this for years. And I read a really interesting piece going back about 2 or 3 years ago about the word disease being used for alcoholism. And one doctor stated that it was the wrong thing to do to use the word disease. Because when you use a word like disease, what you're suggesting is it's out of the person's control, which it's not. Because every alcoholic, it is within their control to stop. Because let's be clear about it, people who have been alcoholics have stopped being alcoholics, which proves that it is in their control. You can control it yourself, but you have to want to do it and you have to need to do it. So the very fact that you can control it and you can stop it when you choose to do it proves that it's not a disease as far as this doctor is concerned, because you can't control a disease. If you have a disease, you must take medication or you must find a cure, a medical cure, because we can obviously observe it medically. So basically the point he was making is if we call it a disease, it gives people an opt-out. And they say, well, it's not my fault, it's a disease. I can't control it. Where his theory is you can control it. Now, other doctors will have different views, obviously, on it. But do you believe addiction is a disease? Something out of your control? Or is it really your choice? And a selfish one at that, according to some people. Who is to blame? Or is blame useless? Merely feeding the stigma which causes the addict to want to disappear into a substance. I suppose, I don't know what you think of that situation. Do you think by using the word disease, it gives people an opt-out? Do you agree with Peter Hitchens when he said it's a choice? Or do you agree with Matthew Perry, who has passed on, saying he has no choice in the matter? Dr. Mark Lewis, a developmental neuroscientist, his book called The Biology of Desire, Why Addiction is Not a Disease, argues that considering addiction as a disease is not only wrong, but also harmful. Rather, he argues addiction is a behaviour problem that requires willpower and motivation to change. And that was the point Peter Hitchens was making to Matthew Perry, but he didn't want to listen. Because, of course, when you're in that situation, you do want to blame somebody apart from yourself. And although very sad, don't get me wrong, to see somebody die so young, and somebody who we saw on the screen as being this very light-hearted, very happy person. Anyway, the point is, do you agree with Peter Hitchens and Dr. Mark Lewis, who's written a book about the biology of desire? Do you agree that alcohol is a disease, or do you believe it's, look, within your own power and your own control to stop? Let me know what you think. Maybe you've struggled with alcoholism or indeed drug addiction. The number is 087 188 0008. That's 087 188 0008. Let me go to Morris if I can. Morris, hi, how are you? Morris. Hey, for some reason he ain't there. Morris, are you there? Can we hear you, Morris? No. Oh, hold on, let me just switch him over there. Are you there, Morris? Okay. We seem to have lost Morris for some reason there. Maybe should I just give that a quick restart there and then it should be okay. All right. For some reason. That doesn't seem to be working there, Jane. I do apologise. So he says, now, what was the name of that book again? Dr. Mark Lewis, his book is called The Biology of Desire. And it's called Why Addiction is Not a Disease. And the reason he argues that is because you put a stigma onto something and basically say to somebody, well, it's not your fault, it's a disease. So you fire away and keep doing it because it's out of your control, when realistically it's not out of their control. The number, as usual, as I said, is 087 188 0008. That's 087 188 0008. I'm asking you, do you think that alcoholics do have control over alcoholism? Can they stop when they feel? Well, of course they can stop, because we hear all the time about alcoholics who are not alcoholics anymore. And there is always that thing, by the way, as well, that I always think that, when alcoholics say, I'm an alcoholic, I haven't drank in 20 years, but I'm still an alcoholic. I actually don't like that idea. Now, I know that's what they're taught to say, but as you know, I smoke cigarettes and I do want to give them up. I keep saying it. I know. But when I give up cigarettes, I'm not going to refer to myself as a smoker. I'm going to say I'm a non-smoker. Because if I refer to myself as a smoker, well, then what I'm doing is I'm continuing down the same path, am I? Let me go to Morris. I think Morris is back. Morris, are you there?
Yeah, man, how are you?
Sorry about that. Oh, I do apologise. Oh, she's switched you off again there. I do apologise, Morris. Sorry, go ahead.
Okay now?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, we're sorted. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, I think, an addiction, it's like when you're young, you try something and you'll either say yeah or no. And you said no. I know you smoked a bit of stuff in your day and you went, oh, it's not for me, and you jacked it up. But unfortunately, there's weaker people out there and they just become addicted, totally addicted to what they need. And they get so addicted, they need to take it every day to feel normal, the way you feel normal and the way I feel normal.
Well, we don't all feel normal. We have our ups and downs, There are days, there are days, don't get me wrong, I don't drink and I don't do drugs or anything like that, but I do smoke cigarettes. But there are days that, I'm not having a good day and I'd say, geez, I wouldn't mind a bottle of whiskey, right? But because I know that helps some people in that situation, but I wouldn't do that. You know what I mean?
I understand. You got a very bad impression of drink through your dad.
Probably,
I really did
yes.
think it affected you. And I think my wife did as well. Carol never drank in her life because her dad's brother lived with them. And they had to bring him home from England. He was dying and he was an alcoholic and he died of cancer. And they had terrible rows and terrible fights. And if you're watching that or raise the voices, you're going to say, well, why would I ever want to drink? That drink is bad, drink is dirty, drink is evil. Whereas I came from a family where drink was available. But I never seen anything that I'd be ashamed of. My father was a hard worker and he worked hard and he played hard. And he partied hard. That's the way he was. Your father and my father were in the same generation. There's your money for your groceries and the kids for the week. The rest is mine. I'm going drinking.
But see, my problem with my dad was a wonderful man, right? I love him to bits, right? A great guy. But when he was drinking, he was a dickhead. You know what I mean? And he spoke to... now, don't get me wrong, he never physically hurt my mother or anything like that, but the way he spoke to her and the way he treated her when he was drunk was wrong. And particularly if he drank whiskey. He was like a psychopath when he drank whiskey. And
so, like you said, he doesn't see that. He's being okay. And then he get up the next morning, oh, Mary, what? And she said, I'm not talking to you. I'm just you're treating. I'm very sorry. It'll never happen again. There you go. Am I right?
Yeah, but he would. My father would consume, like if we went to a wedding or something like that, or he was
big amounts of beer.
15 to 17 pints of Guinness down the hatch
and drive the car.
Oh yeah.
Oh no bother.
Drive the car home.
I remember my father telling me one time, and he was in the army, and it was before he married my mother, and he said he got 20 pints of Guinness for a pound in the mess in Collins's barracks.
I wouldn't surprise
That's ongoing.
Well, I mean, people say they asked me, was my father an alcoholic? Well, he had to have been, because he drank all the time, and he was in the FAI. He was secretary of the FAI at one stage, and he would have been up in Merrion Square all the time. And he'd go in for his meetings 2 and 3 times a week after work, and then he'd go for a pint after his meetings with the lads from the FAI, and
It was the culture. It was the culture in those days. Real men went to the pub and the women stayed at home and minded the kids and cooked dinner.
Oh yeah, Sunday morning over to the pub, come home for his dinner and go back over again. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah, Sunday was a drinking day for men. Definitely was. And then they went back into work on Monday,
Yeah.
But I think people that are addicted, Niall, it is a weakness. And
but do you think it's a disease? This word disease. I mean, that's what Matthew Perry was arguing over, saying there was some sort of biological reason for it. And I don't think many doctors say that's complete nonsense, and all you're doing is enabling it by saying that.
Yeah, you're trying to give it a name that fits in with the woke brigade now. Oh, he's not an alcoholic. He's alcohol dependent.
Or he's a disease.
Do you see what I mean? Yeah. But I was telling one of your researchers there that I watched a video of a woman that looked like a junkie in town robbing drink out of a spar shop, and she was raiding the fridge for, the small cans of spirits like Smirnoff and Coke and stuff like that. And she's screaming at the staff. Not only is she robbing the place, give me a effing bag. Give me an effing bag. She was trying to get the staff to help her rob the stuff she needed because of her addiction, because she wasn't getting the high off the drugs. So what they do is they take the alcohol instead to keep them going down off the high. Mm-hmm. And she was a really big woman, and I tell you, if she got a hold of you, she'd do some damage.
Yeah.
And she's running out of the shop, and then the drink all falls there over her hand. So she's addicted. And what do you do in this country? I'll throw her into jail. No, put her into a fucking... Open up what they have in America where you do.
Drunk tank.
The drunk tank. Put them in the drunk tank.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I feel very sorry for the people like Matthew Perry, who spent a life being addicted to both prescription drugs and alcohol as well. And, and obviously had a very difficult life. He suffered greatly from depression. But I watched that debate back in whatever it was 7 or 8 years ago when he was on with Peter Hitchens, who's also a very intelligent man, by the way. Christopher Hitchens, his brother. Yeah. I was a great admirer of Christopher Hitchens, who was a great writer and speaker, who died quite young of cancer, actually, going back a few years ago. But Peter Hitchens is very intelligent too. And he was being very polite to him, but he just wasn't buying into it. And Matthew Perry got really angry with him and annoyed and started coming out with all sorts of theories, which weren't really true. They were just... my impression was it's blame anybody but myself.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Turn the attention off me. I'll tell you what I realised there the other day. It was Robin Williams' anniversary.
Oh, that's right.
Now, there's a guy that appealed to masses of people around the world, and little did we know he was the most loneliest of them all.
That was it's incredible story.
He hid everything.
Yeah.
He hid everything. And what a guy to lose to suicide. My God, he must have been tormented.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the only way out for him was to find peace on the other side. And the guy was a walking genius. But like you said before in your show, it's a thin line between genius and
madness, absolutely. But okay, well, let me get back to the original point, I suppose. And I want to get back to this idea of this book by Dr. Mark Lewis, who talks about the biology of desire and why addiction is not a disease. But some people believe it is. Stay there. Let me just go to Kathleen as well. Kathleen, hi, how are you?
Hello now.
How are you doing, Kathleen? Kathleen?
Yeah, I'm okay, yeah.
It says on my screen that you don't feel any sympathy for addicts at all.
No, sure, I don't.
Okay,
no,
why? Have you got personal experience?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and they really... I've tried to understand. I did 10 years in Naranon. It was a group in Dublin at the time.
Yeah.
Around, and there was quite a lot of people attended the meeting,
Yeah.
And it was very beneficial now. And what I found is that it's a hard road. They start, you see, I think a lot of it starts in the teenage years now where, peer pressure, teenagers, go on, you have a fag, or go on, go on, have a spliff, or have, try a bit of E, and they go into the discos, but they have a choice, okay, adolescents can easily be influenced, but they have got a choice now, yeah. And so many bad things happen in a family when, it's drugs related. It's horrible.
Absolutely. Oh, well, there are many victims. I mean, the alcoholic in the house or the drug addict is not the only victim. Everybody else around them is a victim as well, of course.
Yeah, yes.
And I get that, you know, and you know, I do have a level of sympathy for somebody who finds himself in that situation. But do you believe, I mean, this word that has been thrown around over particularly the last 5 years that I've heard, that alcoholism is a disease. Do you believe that?
No, I think that, and I know somebody that has a drink problem as well, but it's telling me he's got clean, you know, that he's not using it. He was very sick and, you know, whatever he was doing to himself due to alcohol. But
yeah, well, it can cause, obviously.
You can't believe.
Yeah, well, alcoholism in itself can cause a disease. Liver disease would be one example, of course, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And no more than alcoholics, then can you trust somebody with an addiction, because they could be just on a methadone program, okay, and then they're meant to be stable when they're on the methadone, because it's, you know, it's more or less helping them to get through their taking the hard drugs. But you see, after so many years now, it's a chemical imbalance in the brain, I believe, where they're not able to stop it. You know, it's just that the brain, it's something to do with chemical imbalance. That's what I believe it to be.
Okay, and some people have that view, but again, there's no evidence of that. But apart from the
there's
fact,
no evidence.
No, apart from the fact that people just become dependent, psychologically dependent on whatever substance it is they're using.
Yeah, and you see, they lose so much in life, and I would just wonder when the person gets older and they've been on drugs for maybe 20, 30 years, and then how, and they do look to see their kids when they get older or whatever, and they've not had any interaction with them. I wonder, does it prick at their conscience?
I'd say it probably does, but do me a favour, stay there, because I want to go to Lewis as well. Lewis, hi, how are you?
Yeah, of course.
How you doing, Niall? How's it going?
Good, Lewis.
How's things?
Yeah, I'm kind of focused very much on this word disease, or this thing that it's out of your control. Is it out of your control?
Yes, it is. Yeah, I've been to the Rutland Centre twice now, myself, and I'm currently in recovery. You know, it's a disease of the mind. You know, the obsession kicks in, and when the obsession kicks in, it's very hard to get rid of it, you know. And the only way you get rid of it is by going to meetings and actually talking about the disease, which is strange. But you know, you have a 12-step program as well, and it is a disease.
Okay, what do you think of this guy, Dr. Mark Lewis? He's a developmental neuroscientist, and he said this. I'm quoting him here. This is his book, The Biology of Desire. He says, why addiction is not a disease argues that considering addiction as a disease is not only wrong, but also harmful, and rather argues addiction is a behavioural problem that requires willpower and motivation to change. So he strongly...
Well, it is a behavioural problem. Like, you know, you have awful behaviours when you're in addiction.
Absolutely.
And when every addict or alcoholic is a compulsive liar and does a lot of damage, you know. When they're in addiction.
But is it damaging to call it a disease? See, when I say to somebody something is a disease...
As I said to you before, it's a disease of the mind, you know. So when you're in addiction or you're in...
But that's not the correct term. I mean, an addiction, yes, is a psychological disorder. But that's not a disease, because to suggest something is a disease suggests you've no control over it. By its very nature of the definition of the word disease, it's an infection, it's a disease, like liver disease, lung disease, whatever. We don't have any control over those unless we take medication, of course, to get a cure. But when it comes to alcohol, the only cure for it is you stopping doing it. And that's entirely up to you. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Well, you can stop drinking, Niall, but you can still have the behaviours of an alcoholic if you don't get cured for your alcoholism. So you could not drink for the next 20 years, but you could still have your behaviours could actually be worse if you don't treat the alcoholism. And the only way of doing that is by, you know, as I said, on a 12-step program, going to meetings, doing service, and all this sort of stuff, you know.
How long are you off it, Lewis?
Well, I did another stint there. I just came out of Rutland there in August.
Okay, good luck.
And I got 2.5 years sobriety, and I went back out, and I was actually just worse. And I got worse and worse and worse. And it's a progressive illness, you see.
Did you go back?
So-
Did you go back on it again?
The first time I was in the Rutland was 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And I came out and I got 2.5 years sobriety, and then I thought I could drink again, and I couldn't, and I
You
just
thought you could have a
worse.
social drink, like.
Yeah. But it gets worse. It's a progressive illness, and even when you're not drinking for 20, so people who haven't drank for 20 years and they go back out, they're actually 20 times worse than where they left off. It doesn't stop. Your illness doesn't stop when you stop. It continues with you, and that's what people don't understand. Because to say, like, I don't think people realise how hard it is.
Well, no, I think they
stop.
do. I do too, because look, I smoke, and I understand how difficult it is to give up smoking. And you're right. I went off them for 3 years. Sorry. And I went through a difficult time in my life about 7 years ago when my marriage broke down. And I was very stressed. I was going through a separation, a divorce, and everything that goes along with that. And I went back on the cigarettes, but I went back on them worse than I was when I gave them up in the first place.
Well, there you go. So,
yeah.
I mean, and I've lost my marriage because of it,
But that's the difference between alcohol and cigarettes, obviously, yeah.
It's a family disease, because you're not only damaging yourself, you're
damaging everyone around you. Yeah.
You say every alcoholic or addict affects about 20 people around them, on average, because you're not just affecting yourself, you're affecting your brothers and sisters.
And if you don't mind me asking you, Lewis, what was the lowest point for you in your alcoholism?
Well, I've nearly died a couple of times. I fell and I banged my head one time, and I ended up in Bournemouth with a coma and I had to get right on.
Right.
And another time I fell and I broke my jaw and I ended up in the back of an ambulance. And but it's affected me life. It's destroyed me life.
Yeah.
I've lost jobs. But it's a day at a time. You know what I mean?
And how are you now? How are you feeling now? Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm good now.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's no joke.
See, I suppose what this doctor is saying is, like, say somebody who steals, right? And you turn around to them and say, "Oh, well, you must be a kleptomaniac, right?" And they go, "Oh, well, there you go. So I'm going to keep stealing because it's not my fault. The doctor told me I'm a kleptomaniac." So do you understand what I'm saying? Or somebody who eats too much food and they're overweight, and the doctor says, "Oh, you have a metabolism problem, or you have something wrong with your hormones or something." So it gives them an excuse to continue because they're blaming something else. Now, I'm not saying that you're doing that, but by using a word like disease, you're more or less saying to somebody it's out of their control, but it's not.
Well, you see, you've all sorts of addictions nowadays, right? All to do with the mind and Rutland Centre, they don't just deal with alcoholism.
I know they deal with everything. Yeah.
Sex, they deal with video games, they deal with all this sort of stuff, and it's all to do with this, with the mind and the obsession that it causes in the mind. And I firmly believe it is a disease. It's a disease of the mind, and unless this doctor is actually in it himself, like he was an addict or he was an alcoholic himself, then he hasn't really got a clue what he's talking about, to be honest with you. Because if you go to any alcoholic or you go to any addict, they will tell you that the obsession and
I've no doubt.
To do with drugs.
Oh no, I mean psychologically. No, well, hang on, Lewis. I've no doubt. Well, when I talk to alcoholics on the air or drug addicts on the air, I've no doubt that they feel they have no control over it because I've spoken to them and I know how difficult that must be.
Yeah,
but I suppose we are talking about the biology.
From a personal point of view, I know that when the obsession kicks in, it's horrific. And you can just say to an alcoholic, "Oh well, just stop."
Oh, sorry, we've just lost you there. Let me just go to Joe. We'll come back to you in a second. Joe, hi, how are you?
I'm not too bad now. Good evening again. How are you?
Good evening. Nice to talk to you, Joe. By the way, have you got rid of the anger out of your system after today? Mind you, I wouldn't.
Oh yes,
I wouldn't blame you.
Apologise.
Listen, Joe. Don't you dare apologise.
Okay, she really irritated
No,
me.
she deserved it.
Yeah, but I actually listened back to the podcast after, and I tell you, she got away with it. She was lucky that a couple of more didn't come on top for her, Oh,
and well, most people didn't agree with her anyway. She was a bit of a head case.
No. Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, I forgot about her though. I know I wouldn't.
Yeah, you put her out of your head completely.
She's like a blow in the wind, you know.
Yeah.
Goes in one ear and out the
I know
other.
loads of people are thinking, what are they talking about? Oh, I'll tell you later. Anyway, Joe, okay, getting back to alcoholism on a more serious note. This doctor says, this idea of calling it a disease is not a good thing, that it discourages people from wanting to give up.
Well, I think that doctor, look, he probably has a good idea of what he's talking about. Now, I listened to your last contributor and he seems to have a good knowledge of what he's saying. But I don't know about calling it a disease. I think that's going a little bit down the PC route, really, isn't it? Because, like, if it was a disease, like it was like something like liver cancer or something in the groin or something like that, that would be classed as a disease. But like alcoholism, if you have the willpower, Niall, you can give up alcohol at your own strength.
Yeah,
I think it's about strength and character.
Yeah, you can't give up. You can't give up having cancer, which is a disease, by the way. You can,
no, exactly.
But you can give up drinking if you really, really want to. I know. I'm not suggesting it's easy, by the way.
Yeah, I know a lot of people now who are alcoholics and who have went through the mill of it over their time, and the majority of them, like, they eventually knocked it on the head, because they just said to themselves, if we were to continue doing what we were doing, we wouldn't be here today. We'd be just inside in the grave.
Mm-hmm.
There's that, like,
Yeah.
So I think, like, there is the willpower there. But in relation to your man, that guy in Friends, which I wasn't a big fan of Friends, by the way. I thought that, be honest, a bunch of there were students or whatever, they're sitting around the New York Calf.
Yeah.
That didn't really get my blood boiling. They were saying there that was one of America's greatest ever TV shows. I think to me that was the pioneer of bad TV at its worst.
Well, it still is one of the most highly rated television shows in American history. Next to Cheers and a few others. Well, now, I'm going to agree with you, Joe. I never really watched it. I never really got it. It was funny every now and again, but it wasn't that great. I know it was overrated.
I do remember that what's his name was in it, all right. Tom Selleck, he appeared in it.
That's right, he did, yeah. He was the father-in-law.
I think that other the fella who was in that film, what's that one, Jeff Daniels, is it? Or Jeff Goldblum, is it? I think it was.
No, I know the guy you're thinking of, but I can't think of his name right now at the moment. But I do know the fella you're thinking of. Yeah.
Yeah, but like a lot of celebrities, right? They go down the wrong route anyway. You've seen it with many celebrities over the years.
Yeah.
They live the high life, like especially in America now and in Britain, where fame gets to their head. Now I presume Matthew Perry. He probably had a lot of problems like leading over his time, and he probably got out of control. And your man was trying to kind of, reassure him or try to explain to him like that what he was doing. It wasn't really a disease; it was more of his own actions, like more than anything else.
Well, he was saying to him it was within his control, and nobody else's. It's nobody else controls your alcoholism. Yeah.
But sure, like wasn't there a lot of characters in that TV show had major problems? Like, wasn't there another fella there who I think went on to do Top Gear? Didn't he have an addiction to sex or something?
Well, he had a problem too, but also, what's her name again? I can't remember any of the characters' names. The dark-haired girl. She had problems too. Courtney Cox. Yeah, she had issues too, didn't she?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
She did, yeah.
Well, you're right.
So
fame brings its issues too. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like you saw it with Benny Hill. Benny Hill, God rest his soul, and I know
that was a very sad story.
Probably, he was one of Britain's greatest ever comedians of the 70s and 80s, like,
But he was also a hermit.
Oh, sure, of course, yeah. Sure, like when he died in 1982, he was in a room with a television on, and nobody knew he was there.
No, he was. It was in
and that was the sad
flat,
thing about it.
an old. Like, it wasn't even. He wasn't even living the lifestyle of somebody wealthy, and he was wealthy.
No, and of course he got very badly treated by Thames Television, because when they kind of brought in this rule that they had to get rid of the smut from comedy, that probably took a lot of his dignity away from him,
Yeah.
And, now I know people might say, I'm kind of old-fashioned, I'm old school, but I actually enjoyed all that because that was comedy at its best.
Well, that was good.
But
Yeah, the old slapstick comedy, the carry-on stuff and all that. It was good fun.
Are you being served now all day?
Oh, yeah.
Like, they were all...
Yeah, but you wouldn't get away with that now.
Not at all. You would not with the PC brigade that's there now, not a hope.
What was it? What was your woman and Are You Being Served? The older woman, and she used to always say, "Does anybody want to rub my pussy?"
Pussy, that's right. Yeah.
Referring to her cat, obviously. Stay there for a second, Joe, if you can. Let me go to Catherine. Catherine, hi. How are you?
Hi, Niall.
How you doing? Sorry, moving off television and back to alcoholism and this idea of the word disease. Nobody's saying it's easy to control, Catherine, and I know you're a recovering alcoholic yourself, and you spoke to us before about that.
38 years,
yeah. But
I wouldn't say no way in the 12 steps or the big book says the disease. You know?
Yeah.
And what that other chap spoke about was very good. That was in the Rutland and that, you know?
Yeah.
Now I'm 38 years.
Off
you
it.
know?
Yeah.
And off it. And I feel as if I've never drank in my life. And I wouldn't even think when times are bad to pick up one. It doesn't even enter my mind. I went through too much.
But do you still class yourself as an alcoholic?
Well, I said it to you before, my name is Cam, and see, when we go to AA meetings, you say, the first thing you say, my name is Catherine, I'm an alcoholic. But I'm beginning to kind of say to myself after you said it, I'm really not, because I don't drink.
You don't drink, yeah.
You know.
And I never understood that. It's like, it'd be like if I gave up smoking tomorrow and somebody asked me next week, do you smoke? I'd say, no, I don't smoke. Why would I continue to say I'm a smoker when I'm not?
But it's very, very hard now.
Oh, no, I'm sure it is. Yeah.
And it can grab you. You know, it can just take a hold of you. And as that chap said, it progresses. And the family members you ruin, your family, everything, everybody around you. Now, I actually stopped at 38 or 39, and I'm 76 now. And I tell you, it was horrendous. And you don't like the life you're having, but you need it to function.
But you're the only one who can control it.
Exactly. Nobody else can do it.
No.
And, you know, I'm just, that's stuck in my mind about disease. I don't believe it. It doesn't say in the AA book, 12 steps, or the big book. It's just, I don't know what. It's just.
Well, why do you think we're using that language over the last few years, where it's been alcoholism? They say is a disease. Now, doctors will disagree with this. Many doctors and say we shouldn't use that word because it enables people.
Well, true, yeah. But in my time, they used it as a disease. But I never took that on board. I was an alcoholic, and that was it. And I needed it to function. And then when I did have it, I couldn't function. Yeah. You know, so...
It was catch-22, wasn't it?
Yeah. But, life without it. Life without it.
And when you were in the Rutland Centre too, were you?
I was in the Rutland Centre in 1979, I think, or
right,
maybe before it went in the Monastery Road.
And how much were you drinking a day at that stage?
3 litres of vodka.
Wow.
3.
Gosh.
It progressed to that. It started with a baby vodka, a Naggam, half bottle, a big bottle, and then went on because you needed more and more and more. It
was an expensive hobby, wasn't it?
Oh my God! But somehow you got the money. They got it somewhere.
So you probably went without food just to drink.
I actually, and I hate saying this, and I don't. It's not me to be listening to this, but I know. I used to rob the food and buy the drink.
Yeah.
Because I thought I needed it. I needed it. But I went cold turkey for 6 months, I think it was 2 months, horrendous, without anything. I was just so sick of being sick. I was 4 stone or 5 stone. My children were sent down to me. I was living with my mum. My children were sent down by my husband. They were only babies. And, but nothing to me. I used to say I'd stop for the children, and if they're doing something wrong, I'd start again. I'd do it for my husband, and if they're doing something wrong, I'd drink again. So you have to do it for yourself.
That's what I was just going to say. Is the most important person you, and because you know everybody else is no good without you.
You have to hit the lowest of the lowest, and I did. And I just said, "Here, I've had enough. I'm not doing it for anybody. I'm doing it for me
and for yourself."
And that's from that day on, I'm absolutely marvellous.
And do you go out to social events now where people are drinking?
I had 4 children married. I went to their weddings. I entertained. I'm the first on the dance floor, Niall. And then when it comes to about 11 o'clock, I just say, well, I'm after dancing for you all. I'm after doing my piece. I'm up to my bedroom, into my hotel, for me cup of tea and me cigarettes.
Yeah. But you're never tempted now. You never say to yourself, "Jays, I'd love a drink."
Never. God, I used to believe in a higher power. I'm gone to the point now, and I'm getting your kind of ways. You're nothing before you're born. You're nothing after.
Yeah.
You know that kind of way.
Yeah. The world doesn't owe us anything. No.
It doesn't. No.
Well, do me a favour. Stay there for a second. Let me just go to Sarah Jane as well, and Caroline will be with you in a minute.
No problem.
Stay there, Catherine.
Okay.
Sarah Jane, hi. How are you?
I'm grand, Niall. How are you?
Good. So I suppose what the real argument is when Chandler Bing, I could call him, Matthew Perry, was being interviewed, he kind of had a habit of kind of not taking any personal responsibility for his own problem. He had that kind of debate with Peter Hitchens, where Peter Hitchens says, "Will you stop blaming everybody but yourself? You're the one in control." And he said, "No, I'm not. It's a disease." Now, doctors have argued about this word disease for years, and some of the best doctors, including this one that I've been reading this book, he's a developmental neuroscientist, and he said it's wrong to use the word disease, because when you use the word disease, what you're essentially doing is saying to somebody, it's not your fault.
Well, that's it. You're really reflecting it upon yourself, saying that it's a disease of the mind.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you could easily say that, but like, what I take out of that is I don't think it's a disease. Like, I left the Rutland Centre in just the end of 2000.
Yep.
And I haven't picked up a drink since. And I went on to a 12-step program, which was suggested by them. And the language in around the 12-step program, like, as that lady Kathleen spoke about, you wouldn't hear like it's a disease of the mind or anything like that. But what I have heard, like in the early stages of my recovery, is like you'd have people trying to simplify words, like where in my earlier days, like I wouldn't have been sort of bright or educated, and I'm saying I'm still educated. But in regards to when it came to recovery and the language that came with it, like it was like a disease was broke down to me and it was simplified. Like it was like you know, you're not at ease with yourself. It's like that you're diseased within yourself, within the mind.
Mm.
You know, it's not actually like you're going out and it's a disease, like.
Yeah.
And some people will call it a disease. And like recovery is like, and it does come down to the obsession, like, and people think because they're off alcohol for years and years, like I've seen people going out and drink after 30 and 40 years.
Yeah.
Like they're not practicing, like, and I'm not trying to sort of implement the language of recovery, but like you live by the sword and you die by the sword. Like I had to do a 360-degree turn on everything, my thinking, my behaviour. And if I go back and I even try to attempt to act out on those behaviours or even think like that, that'll actually bring me back down that road closer to the obsession. Like, it's so easy to stop drinking, but to stay stopped is a totally different story. That's where you have to put in the work. And I don't think that guy, Matthew, had clarity on that. Like, I'm not going to say he had an epiphany or anything like that, but I don't think he understood. And you only get clarity on things like that when you actually put in the work. Like, when you actually do something that somebody tells you to do, it's like blind faith.
Well, do you believe everybody... Okay, well, I'll ask you a question. Do you believe everybody who is an alcoholic has a choice? In other words, this idea that you have no control has to be nonsense, because I'm listening to you, I'm listening to Catherine, and I listened to the caller previously,
Niall,
and you all stopped drinking, but you all stopped drinking, which means that you do have control because you did it.
Yeah, but like... Niall, what I'm trying to explain to you, I don't know how many times I've been in and out of treatment centres, and I mean, deep down in my soul, I wanted to stop drinking and taking drugs, and I just could not.
Because
the
it wasn't the right
there in
time
my
for
head.
you. Yeah, but it obviously wasn't the right time. But now it is.
Yeah, but you can't turn around and say, when is the right time? Because addiction, whether it's alcoholism, whether it's sex, whether it's like drugs, whether it's gambling, like people say you give time, you know, and that's only when you're in recovery, but you don't have that time when you're out there and you're in active addiction. Because like death, we've seen it there with that guy, like Matthew Terry.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm not saying like if anybody knows people that are in recovery or have been down that road and have been on the same boat that he was travelling on, like you can pick up on his body language. You can pick up on the way he was speaking, the way other people spoke to him. You could see that was like a cliche, like what was coming out of it, because you have this thing within you that it's like 120% honesty that you're speaking the truth, that you know. That's why I do always say to people, like, recovery is possible. Like, don't ever doubt yourself and hope, no matter how bad. Niall, I came from the gutter. And, like, I'm not going to say on national radio, but like, the hairs on your body crawl from where I came from. And that's how I know anybody can do it.
But that's what I'm saying. You've now got a second chance at life. Catherine's got a second chance at life when she was 38.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Exactly. Like, and I'm sober now and clean, like, as long as I was out there when I was in active addiction. But what I will say is, like, when people talk about the obsession of alcohol, it can come back. If you're out there and if you're messing around, if you're mixing with the wrong people, and if you're hanging around the wrong places, like, people reminisce, and we all have memories, and we all know where we came from, but we don't want to go back there.
Okay, well, hold on a second. Just before the break, I want to go to Caroline too. Stay there, Catherine and Sarah Jane. Caroline, hi, how are you?
Hi, Niall, how are you?
It's kind of weird that we normally associate alcoholism with men, and yet the majority of callers who are ringing saying that they're in recovery or whatever are actually women. So it's a kind of problem that doesn't have a gender to it. It's everybody. It can affect all walks of life.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'm 16 months now, coming up next Saturday. Thanks for the God.
Well done.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Yeah, it was great actually listening around there, and but I do think it's a disease like of the mind.
Mm-hmm.
Like at the end of my drinking, like I started drinking when I was 18, and I'm 44 now. Like,
yeah.
And at the end of my drinking, when I couldn't afford it, COVID was around, and I used to end up buying bottles of hand sanitizer to get the effect alcohol gave me. That's how bad it was, you know. So I didn't want to do that, but I had to do that. So it wasn't.
But sorry, can I just say, you know the way you say a disease of the mind, right? Like, are you talking about like your mental health aspects of it, like?
Well, I think it's psychological
the way
addiction,
your mind,
isn't it?
and the way you're taught, your process, the thoughts in your mind, like. Is that the type of disease that you're talking about? Or is it like a disease, like you can go out and catch a disease? Like,
I know. Everybody gets confused by the word disease. And see, Caroline, I understand what this neuroscientist is saying. When you attach a word like disease to alcoholism or drug addiction or whatever it happens to be, right? What you're kind of saying to somebody is, well, actually now, see, it's not really your fault. It's the disease. Because, for example, when you have cancer, which is a disease, for example, you have no control over that. You rely on doctors to help you cure it, or medication or whatever it is to cure that disease. But with alcohol, the choice is yours. Now, I'm not saying that choice is easy, but it is your choice.
Yeah, I understand that. But, like, when you're actually in the depths, when I was in the throes of my drinking, like... It was like I didn't have a choice. You know, I couldn't stop. You know, it was just, it was like I didn't have a choice. Like, I'd call the kids for school at 8 o'clock. My alarm would be set for 7 o'clock, so I'd have a full bottle of wine inside me before I could call them, because I could not get out of the bed.
Wow.
Like, I'd cry in the bathroom mirror, drinking a bottle of wine down in the mornings, not wanting to do it, but thinking I needed it.
And
you know,
was it just wine? Was it just wine you were drinking, or was it other stuff?
Oh, whatever was there,
Whatever was
like
available.
like I used to work in a bar, going back donkey's years, and before the close of the night, I used to have to lock up, and I'd need something to get me into work the following morning. So I'd go round with a Ballygown bottle to the optics, and whatever was there, it'd go into the Ballygown bottle, and I'd have that then before I started work then the following morning.
Wow.
It was, yeah, like, and
I know. I had a guy on here
know.
one day on the radio, and he was saying to me that his alcoholism was so bad at one stage that he had no money, and he went to Beaumont Hospital. This is the truth, and he started taking hand sanitizer and drinking it.
That's I ended up drinking the hand sanitizer, and I ended up in hospital 3 times after drinking it.
Yeah.
You know, because I drank too much. Not that there's a normal amount. That
No,
goes
he's not a
to it,
fan. I don't recommend anybody drink hand sanitizer.
Yeah, exactly.
But-
but
You're
it was
so lucky
there
to be
and it was-
alive.
Yeah, you're lucky.
I've
Yeah,
bamboozled my
so lucky.
doctor, like, you know,
Yeah.
it is a miracle. It is a miracle. But like I said, thanks be to God, like, you know, it's 16 months on, and
Well done
I'm
to you,
getting
Caroline,
stronger. I'm
and
getting
keep it
stronger.
going, keep it going. And I'm assuming it affected people in your life as well, other people in your life, everybody in your
Oh,
life.
it did. The biggest regrets I have are my 2 kids. They're 16 and 15 now. And what kills me the most is when memories pop up on Facebook that I've pictures taken of them, and it's like, I don't even remember taking the picture, you know, because I wasn't there present. But in saying that, my daughter, she got her junior cert results the other day, and I went to pick her up. And I went in and I hugged her and kissed her and everything. And I was so present, and I didn't have to turn my mouth away to hide the smell of drink. And that made me so emotional, you know.
I can imagine,
just to
yeah.
be present.
So what your
so
biggest regret is you've missed all those moments in your children's life.
I did, yeah.
and I understand
And so
that.
did I. And so did I.
Yeah. It's
So,
it's
Catherine,
sad,
you remember that too, Catherine, yeah?
Yes, I miss my lovely 4 children growing up. Yes.
Yeah.
I was praying it'd rain so that I wouldn't have to go out.
Yeah.
The seaside, I was praying I wouldn't have to go on a holiday. You know.
Yeah.
I mean, and
you do get
I have to-
acceptance of all that, and you move on from it.
That's
Ways of
fantastic.
function, yeah.
You know, I have 4 children, and not one of them drink or smoke.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
They're all married, and none of my grandchildren. And it's
You know, that's
fantastic.
another thing. Sorry for cutting across you there. But sorry for cutting across you. But that's another
No
thing,
problem.
Niall, right?
Yeah.
No, like, I often wonder, like, the way people as well, you have the cliche saying it's hereditary. Like, that gets on my gut as well, like.
Well, I don't think there's any evidence of that. They think that there may be something genetic, but maybe some people are just more predisposed to addictions than others. But I don't think, well, from the evidence that's there at the moment, it doesn't seem that there's some sort of hereditary link between, like, alcoholics or whatever it happens to be, you know. You know, they don't. It's not something. But I think it's, well, I mean, certainly it's what they call nurture, not nature. In other words, if your family are alcoholics or there's a lot of drinkers in your house, you're probably more likely to drink. Although in saying that, as I said, my father was practically an alcoholic, but I didn't drink, you know, so.
Yeah.
And my sister doesn't drink very much either, so.
I was an only girl, Niall. I had 3 brothers.
Mm.
You know, and my mother and father weren't alcoholics. My mother would have a glass of Guinness with blackcurrant, and my father would have a pint at the weekend.
Caroline, did your mum and dad drink?
They didn't really. They went out on a Saturday night for a few, and that would be it. But like the lady said, they're like, I have 6 brothers and a sister, and I'm the alcoholic out of the whole lot of them, like, you know,
Right.
and I'm in the middle, like, you know, like you were saying when I come on, like, you know, all the fellas, they can go out and have their drink and whatever and go home to bed and that's it, like, you know.
Yeah.
But I was the one that got caught up in it.
And did you
know,
lose
so-
friends over it and lose family over it? And
You know what? It's only this week and last week. There's a lot of stuff that I'm grown up now. Like
Yeah.
I started drinking at 18, and I think that once I had that first drink, that gave me courage and confidence. And I talked, and I had friends, and I had everything. And now I'm 44, and now, like I said, there's issues at home at the minute, and it's like now I'm an 18-year-old. In my head, I'm an 18-year-old.
oh,
And
I know what
have
you mean.
to learn how to deal with all this stuff because I didn't know how to deal with it before.
Yeah.
So I didn't really have friends.
Okay.
You know, I was a loner, but Yeah, so I think I firmly believe that when I started drinking at 18, that I'm now back where I was before I started drinking. So I have to learn how to learn again, how to live again.
Well, look, I have to go into a break, but
girl.
Caroline, I really, really wish you well. You sound like a really nice person, and you sound like you really want to change your life. And you've listened to both Catherine and Sarah Jane, who were both in your position going back many years ago, and they're still thankfully
fantastic.
off the drink. And that'll be you on the radio in hopefully in 18 years' time, telling me that you're off at 38 years and I'll be 90 years of age. But you'll be able to tell me all that, Caroline. So stay strong. And stay off it, because look, you know as well as I do, it's a fool's game,
Yeah.
And look, you don't want to. I mean, your kids now are going to be going to college. They're going to be doing their leaving cert. They're going to be going to college. They're going to have careers. They're going to hopefully have children, and you'll have grandchildren. You don't want to miss all of that. You want to be there, and you want to be present of mind for all of that, not just present physically.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Caroline, listen, wonderful talking to you. Thank you very much indeed. Kate, when we talk about alcoholism as a disease, some doctors are saying we shouldn't use that word because it enables people to keep continuing doing what they're doing. And essentially the choice is yours, although a difficult choice. What would you say in relation to that?
Well, you kind of knocked me out of the park there in the last few minutes, because you said it was like nurture and nature. And I believe that as well. A disease of the mind, I think, can lead to a physical disease where you need to withdraw.
Yeah.
Which takes in medication, which is a disease in itself. Personally, I can tell you that another lady said, by the way, all the ladies were wonderful in what they said, and hats off to them. They're all doing great. But one lady said that it has nothing got to do with your family, or what's the word?
Hereditary. She said this
Hereditary.
idea. Yeah, there's no actual evidence of that from a biological sense, I suppose.
Yeah, and that's fair enough. But I can say from my point of view that most of the women in my family were very vulnerable to alcoholism.
Yeah.
And I don't know why, but I'm just saying that it is. I'm not saying it's a fact.
Yeah.
It's a fact from my point of view.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and that's obviously from your point of view, your observation, and I'm not going to deny that. I mean, and many people would say the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's.
And
all
did you have a problem, Kate, yourself with alcohol?
Well, I tell you, I would have to be very careful, because it would always be on my mind that it was on my family side.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yes, I would say that I would definitely, I would have to pull myself up.
Yeah.
And I won't deny that. Yeah.
And it is it's a problem that can cause huge problems within your life. It's not just the drinking of the alcohol; it's the social problems that it causes. It's the domestic problems it causes within it as well. Because there was research out a while ago when we were talking about smoking and how many people smoking kills every year. And alcohol actually kills more people directly and indirectly every year because of the other social issues that alcohol causes. Smoking really only affects the person that smokes, whereas alcohol affects everybody around you.
Yeah, and I agree with that. But what I'm just saying is that it can cause a physical disease, even though it's maybe called a mental disease, but it can.
Oh no, it has physical
turn into a
manifestations.
physical disease.
Absolutely, the symptoms can be physical too, because look, you could end up with liver disease as well out of it too.
Yeah, correct.
You know, and by the way, sadly enough, when we look at the statistics over the last 10 years, there's a massive increase in the amount of women who are now presenting with liver disease versus men. It's nearly on par with men now at this stage. Whereas if you go back 50 years ago, there were very few female alcoholics. The majority of alcoholics would have been men.
Well, now, isn't that a strange one?
It's sad.
I don't mean, it's very sad.
Yeah.
It's very, very sad. And I don't mean to make light of it, but there seems to be a lot more pressure on women than there was years ago.
Maybe they're putting pressure on themselves.
What'd you think?
Yeah, I don't know.
Life
was simpler 50 years ago, wasn't it? To some degree, it was simpler. To some degree.
But I mean, they're going into these jobs now where they are being challenged, and then it's kind of...
Yeah, maybe that's what it is. Maybe the reason that a lot of men drank so much was the pressures of life, etc., and now women have those same pressures because they're going into careers, or maybe they're breadwinners and they have those same pressures, and maybe that could be part of the reason. I don't know. I don't work out on the stats, but I'm assuming it could be part of the reason.
Yeah, cool. Anyway, I just found your conversation interesting, and I thought everyone that spoke, they were absolutely brilliant.
Mm-hmm. They were.
And they were very informative now, and I have to say. But I just wanted to put in that it's I still think that I would be vulnerable because of my family.
Your family, yeah.
And other people say that it wouldn't be hereditary. But
I do believe to some extent, Kate, you're probably right. There probably are people who are more vulnerable to addiction than others. You know, because, look, I lived in a house where my father was definitely, without a shadow of a doubt, an alcoholic.
Well,
and not only that, I worked in the nightclub industry where everybody was drunk, and I still didn't drink. You know, so.
I think you dropped from space.
Do you think so?
Not at all. I'm only messing. No, I think you're great. No, I think you're great because, you know, it's like that. Some people, it's like a bully. You know, if somebody is bullying you, you're, I think, 110% sure that you're not going to bully anyone, and you'll probably stop other people from bullying. Yeah, you know what I mean. Yeah. I don't know.
Have you ever been bullied? I don't know. I know because we're talking about bullying next week.
Yes, I have.
Yeah, so have I.
I was speaking to one of your producers in detail. Yes, I have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is shocking, isn't it? It's very demeaning because I've been bullied in school. I think some people are a bit more predisposed to it because I've spoken about this before, quite honestly, that I have an insecurity complex, and you wouldn't think it to listen to me sometimes, but I do. I'm very insecure. I get very paranoid about things, so I'm probably a little bit easy to prey on when it comes to that kind of thing. You know what I mean? And I got bullied badly in school, really badly, when I was about 9 years of age. So much so that I ended up with alopecia. I lost all my hair when I was 9. And I remember I spent most of my life that I didn't go out very much, you know what I mean? Because obviously I got called names and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, and then I got badly bullied then by a school teacher. And then in a workplace as well. I got a hard time from a particular individual too, which I won't go into now. But I will at some point in my life. But in saying
just
that...
one thing.
Yeah.
Just one thing I want to finish up on. Sometimes there can be alcoholism in a family, and you do everything to cover it up, and sometimes it means you just have to be a loner.
Now, real people, real opinions. Nighttime Talk with Niall Boylan.
Ireland's classic hits radio.
McCarthy Insurance Group, serving the community for over 70 years. For home, farm, motor, life, health and business insurance, log on to mig.ie or free phone 1800 50 11 11. Probably your best call in 2024. Charles McCarthy Insurance is trading as McCarthy Insurance Group, is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.